Hello everyone. So in this video I want to present to you a build that I feel like is going to be reasonably popular after the October 4th patch. Because on October 4th, Mechanist, specifically Power Mechanist, is going to lose a lot of damage from his mech, and Power Mechanist was sort of the go-to build for many players who wanted a more low intensity playstyle in raids. So with Power Mechanists getting significant nerfs to his mech, I feel like a lot of people will be looking for a different build that is also not that intensive to play, but still does good damage. And I think the build I'm going to present here is going to be one of the very, very good builds that has that is rather easy to understand. And so I'm putting the exact gear in the video description as well, but these are the traits we're going to use. We're going to use Illusionary Membrane and Chaotic Persistence, which means that we need regeneration in our build. And other than that, we have Method of Madness here. I'll talk about it later. And we have Bountiful Disillusionment here, or Chaotic Interruption, whatever you prefer. I'll also talk about some of that later. For the gear, what's important is that there's a Sigil of Bursting in one of the weapons and a Sigil of Earth in the other weapon. We have Crate Runes, and then a mix of Rampager gear, Sinister gear, and Viper gear. Now the exact mix is going to be linked in the video description. What's important here is that you reach this precision value, which gives us 60% crit chance, and you reach this expertise value, which gives 23.33% condition duration. And the food you're going to use is the bowls of Fancy Potato and Leek Soup, as well as Toxic Focusing Crystals. If Toxic Focusing Crystals are too expensive for you, you can also use Tuning Icicles. It's just a damage loss. Or there are even cheaper variants of utility you could use. But it's all a damage loss compared to this one. Now, this value here with the precision is with the food. So without food, you're looking at 2055 precision. Okay, so the way to test this build properly is to go to the Golem area, give yourself all the wounds, spawn a Golem, average sized, average enemy, additional options, add conditions, all of them. Please spawn my Golem. Technically, you only need vulnerability on the Golem, but it is a bit easier to set up if you just put all conditions on the Golem. It will not give you a damage advantage or anything like that on this build. So you're free to do that. Now, the way we're going to play this build is I'm going to show you that just with mouse clicks, I can reach good damage on the Golem. We're aiming for like 32,000 DPS. And the skills I'm mainly going to use are my Bladesong Sorrow, my F2, my Elite skill, and then I'm going to use my F1 as well. And for weapon skills, I use my Dagger 2 and my Dagger 3. So whenever one of these skills is ready, I press it. That's the entire thing already. Now, when I'm done with this Golem, I'm showing you some more tricks to do more damage. But for now, I'll keep it at simply this kind of intensity here, where I'm just pressing these buttons of cooldown. And I'm showing you there's nothing, you don't need to be fast or anything like that. You can just use your Please don't use your mouse. Use your keyboard to press the skills. But I'm showing you, even with my mouse being suboptimal and everything, the damage is 32,000 DPS. By the way, that's more than AFK Rifle Mechanist right now. It's not more than a good Rifle Mechanist, but it's more than a Reaper. 33k. Oh yeah. Just pressing these buttons. We're at 33k. I don't think it will go any higher. And we're pressing these buttons. What's important as well for your F skills is they are strongest when you have 5 blades to consume. So if for some reason you wouldn't have 5 blades, make sure to wait for 5 blades and then use it. Oh yeah. Shortly before the golem dies, I just want to use big weapon set skills. And 33k. So I believe, like, there's always this idea that there needs to be pure AFK gameplay. I believe, like, if you just go with pure AFK auto attacks, I don't think you have that much DPS on this build. Like the auto attacks, I think we're at 18k or something with auto attacks, maybe a bit below that. We're ramping up slowly. But this is like not very very interesting gameplay to me. 16k, and it's also not very good, right? 16k, obviously you can say you can clear any raid boss with that kind of damage, but if you do this, I promise you, you're probably going to be the worst DPS player in the squad. Everyone else will do more. Unless they go downstate or something like that. You have to press some amount of buttons, is what I'm saying. And I think if you limit yourself to these buttons here and press your elite whenever it's up, I think that is manageable. And that is manageable for every player in this game. It's not something you have to learn or practice hard for. It's just press it when you see it. And I think that's completely doable for anyone. And so that's why I think this should be the low intensity variant. We're not artificially restricting ourselves to 1 less button here, or even 2 less buttons or something like that. This is the low intensity version. And I want low intensity in this game not to mean bad. I want it to be competitive with other classes. It can be, obviously we're like 3000 DPS, 4000 DPS below, let's say, a Holosmith or a Soul Beast at 38k, maybe 5k difference. So there is a damage difference that is healthy. But I want to show you this build not because it's like something that does 20k DPS or so. I want to show it to you because it's good. Because I believe this build can actually compete. And I'm going to show you a Kadim the Peerless later, where I show you really good DPS with it. So yeah, I think you should pick up this build if you want something that's easy to learn. And you can go get good results with that build. Now, let's maybe talk a bit more about the setup of the build and explain a few more choices here. So the first thing that there's to note is these traits here. We do a lot more damage if you have regeneration. So make sure that you have regeneration. Unfortunately, there are some heal firebrands who will not provide regeneration for their subgroup. Make sure you are always in a subgroup where regeneration is provided for you. However, if you don't have a regeneration source, then there are still 2 ways to get regeneration. Number 1 is this trait. Whenever you press F4 with this trait, you will apply some regeneration to you. It's 11 seconds. It's not going to be permanent, but it's something. So if you have a healer who just does a little bit of regen, this can work out in conjunction with the straight. And the second thing is quite unusual. Whenever you get hit below 75% health, an important thing is you need to be hit while being below 75. A hit that brings you from 100 to 50 will not trigger the trait. So whenever you're hit below 75, you get regeneration for 10 seconds. And in theory, this trait is providing up to 66% uptime of regeneration. Obviously, you're not going to be hit exactly every 15 seconds. You're not low health every 15 seconds. So yeah, my summary for this section is make sure that you have regen from a healer. Also some other classes provided, but some other roles provided. But yeah, that's important for this build. That's also why I don't think that this build is very good for solo play, actually. This is really a raid build where this boon is really covered. And now we have some options here. If you don't need this thing, by the way, this also gives you permanent stability, which is very good. You can take Chaotic Interruption instead. Chaotic Interruption, you randomly sometimes you interrupt a foe during a attack. This has nothing to do with break bars. It has to do with using a CC skill while the boss is doing something that is counted as an attack, like when he swings his sword or something, you can get an interruption. And so you get a free recharge on one of the skills that is currently on cooldown. It's okay. It's not significant, but if you get it, it's a nice bonus. Take this if you don't need this. Let's keep default down here, but this is an option. And then now Method of Madness is interesting. So whenever you use your healing skill, you cast Lesser Chaos Storm. Now, as you see in the top right corner of the tooltip, it has a cooldown of 28 seconds. Because this is an actual skill you're casting, this trait will work with alacrity. So 28 seconds becomes like 23 seconds or something if you have alacrity. That's the cooldown on it. Like if you use your heal skill twice in that window, it won't work. But yeah, so 28 seconds with alacrity then. And the way we are going to use it on this build is we use Mantra of Recovery, which doesn't have a cast time, so we can just use it during a cast of something else as free DPS. This field does some amount of damage around you. It gives random boons as well. It's just some free DPS. That's why we use this trait. The other two don't add to your DPS. But if you think you need more defense, you can take this trait. If you play with manipulations, which we aren't right now, you could take this trait here to reduce the cooldown. So this is a golem, and also in most raids I just use this skill. Now the cooldown is annoying of this skill because it's not shown on your skill bar anywhere. What I'm doing is I'm using the Prestige. It has a 30-second cooldown, also works with alacrity. And whenever I press the Prestige, so my Torch 4, I will also press my Mantra of Recovery to get this combo. So this allows me to effectively track the cooldown of Mantra of Method of Madness via this skill here. So this is just something I've learned. Whenever I press this as well. Look, if I press it now, it's wasted. There's nothing happening. I need to wait until the Prestige is on a 2-second cooldown. Now I can press it to get another Chaos Storm. So that's sort of a combo here. Just always sync this up. And then I have this trait, this skill, Rain of Swords. It doesn't do bleeding on its own, but it's a blade skill. And as a blade skill, it does bleeding when you have this traded. So it just does 5 bleeds. Now we have Sigil of Earth, it's more bleeds, but Yeah. This is your weakest utility skill. If you're not, if you need something else like blade renewal or feedback or blink or portal, then feel free to use that. I'm using Rain of Swords here because it's a golem. I'm often using Rain of Swords in fights as well. But yeah, if you need something else, feel free to use something else. Okay. Now we have a weapon swap available as well. I have a focus equipped in the other set. It doesn't really matter which weapon you have here. You don't need any if you don't want to. I have a focus because I like the focus pull. I can pull in ads with this thing, and it's often quite good. So in raids I can weapon swap to the focus for some utility. Make sure that you don't press this Phantasmal Warden, because it doesn't do any kind of damage. I can show you. Like, this was with an auto attack that slipped in as well. It wouldn't have done 14k. Like, the whirling defense on its own is 7k damage, and that's it because it doesn't do any bleeding. So do not use this skill. It's bad. What you should use is the Prestige. It's slightly better than auto-attacking because it has basically no cast time. And if you want to, you can use Phantasmal Mage. Now, Phantasmal Mage is not that great damage on its own because of its cast time. However, when it dies, it creates a clone, or a blade in our case. So what you're going to see sometimes, what I do is when I need a blade, I just use this, so we get an extra blade. This is one thing the build struggles slightly with. We don't have that many bleeding sources. Not as many as the other Condition Virtuoso raid build, the one with the sword and the phantasm casts. So sometimes we're not getting blades as fast as we're used to from the other build. And as such, this extra blade can sometimes be useful. Okay, now before I go into a real fight where every rotation knowledge is tossed out of the window again, I want to kind of show you how this class can look like if you maybe practice some more. If you're not just low intensity mouse clicking the skills, but if you're actually doing a rotation. So let's do some opener here. Now, obviously, this is a much faster and less low intensity opening, but maybe you can see the potential DPS of this if I do a bit better rotation now. The way you want to prioritize your skills is that you put priority on your F2, then your F1, so it doesn't reach 2 stacks. It is an ammo skill, so you can slightly deprioritize it. And then your F4 if you have nothing else to do. And other than that, dagger 2, dagger 3 are your big hitters. Press the prestige when you have time. And finally, the Rain of Swords ability. This is like our lowest priority skill. We press it when really nothing else is going on. What you're seeing me do is as well, maybe interesting. I'm always grouping up skills, so no auto attacks slip in between. That's like, because auto attacks are quite important, you don't really want to cancel auto attacks. And the best way to not cancel auto attacks is to just make sure you queue up skills. Like during the F2 press, I already press my dagger 2. During my dagger 3, I already press my dagger 2. So I always group up these skills, and I don't have any cancelled auto attacks in between. Now I still have some, but yeah. So as you can see with a full rotation while talking, You can do like 36k DPS with this build. Obviously, I'm using stat infusions here, so you are going to lose 500, 600, 700 DPS or so if you don't have the stat infusions, but I do have them. And with 36k benchmark for this kind of setup, I think my best ever was 36.5k or something. With that kind of benchmark value, you're right up there with the other builds. Like, this is super easy to play. It's a bit faster if you press more buttons, of course, but it's super easy to play, and it's really competitive with other builds. You're not playing something bad just because it's easy. And to me, I repeat myself here, but to me, that's what slightly annoyed me about some low intensity builds that are published sometimes when they say, okay, look, you can just auto attack with short bow on a Condi soul beast and do 20k DPS or 23k DPS. And I'm just a bit, I think this is not good damage, right? Here we do a lot more than that. And for me, that's important, that just because you may have a handicap that doesn't allow you to press buttons quickly, that doesn't allow you to press many buttons or something like that. If you have a disability and you want a easy build, I don't want to sell you something that is honestly putting you in the last DPS spot in every group you're ever going to join. I want to give you something that can be good, that can work a lot. Obviously, damage is always damage is always dependent on how well you perform in a fight. What you have to do on this build compared to Mechanist, maybe, you have to make sure that you maintain your attacking. Like, if you get a mechanic and retreat, in this situation, I'm not doing damage. What you need to learn to do is retreat like this, so you can keep doing damage. And this build depends on your ability to keep going and keep doing damage. And it's very good at it because it gives itself permanent stability. But you need to make sure that you actually manage that. It won't do the damage on its own. It needs some kind of gameplay from you. But if you can do that, if you know how to play the mechanics of the fight, this build will allow you to certainly keep up with other Virtuoso players, even if they're playing the slightly stronger build. It will allow you to keep up with very good DPS players, no matter their class. And it will allow you to just perform on a level that nobody is ever going to say, oh, look, it's someone with a low intensity build, don't expect too much from them. Because this build can really hold its own. It's going to be very good, and I predict it's going to become a also very popular and perhaps, I will say it, meta-defining build in the patch to come. So that's it from me for this video. I will now attach a Team the Peerless point of view where you see how I do top DPS. I out DPS a Rifle Mechanist. Obviously, I was a bit greedy in that point of view. I sometimes ignored some mechanics for it, and I didn't revive downside people. You should obviously do that, but I wanted to record something, how the damage can look like if nobody else goes down, right? So, and you can see that it performs on a high level. It's not just a bad build just because it's low intensity. Thanks for watching.